Hey everyone, welcome back to our series Ask an Unconsultant. I am Meg Newhouse and I'm really excited to bring our next quarter of content to you. Q1 was focused around the year ahead, getting ready, getting to plan for the year ahead, focusing on what you should be doing to prepare. And now we're in Q2, and so we're gonna really talk about where you're at in your delivery. And I'm really happy today to be joined by my friend, fellow unconsultant, Saman Porkermani. And in preparing for today, we were gonna talk about what is Agile. And people could just Google it and get an idea of what Agile is. And so what we're gonna do today instead is talk more about what it looks like in action and in delivery. And Sam has a lot of experience in it, so I'm really excited to be talking with you today. So let's get started. What is Agile? And why is it considered a fundamental element of success in today's marketplace?
When we talk about why Agile is fundamental to the success of businesses, I think of two reasons. Number one, most of us really don't know what we want until we see it. You know, and a lot of times we have a problem and we look for a solution, whether we're buying a solution to address a problem or building a solution or a product to address a problem. We really don't know if that solution is going to work the way we need it to or going to address that problem until we try it a lot of times. And I kind of like to use the analogy of remodeling your house. Or let's say you're remodeling your family room. You have a vision of what you want the room to look like.
Right.
You know? You take that vision, you go shopping, you look and you find some couches, and you can do all the measurement you want, you think you've got it down, but until you put the furniture in place, you really don't know what it's going to look like, and you kind of really don't get that flavor of, this is what it's going to turn out to be until you have that. It's a good analogy because you really don't know until you start putting things into place. You start building and implementing the solution and actually applying it, and you learn a lot from that. So I think that's one of the things is we just don't know, most of us at least don't know until we try it. And the faster you can do that, the faster you can test your ideas and experiment, obviously, the faster you're going to be done. And the second element really has to do with the world that we live in today. We're living in the digital age, and it's a very fast-paced, rapidly changing world. We have rapid changes in engineering and technology. We have rapid changes in business needs and customer needs. Our customers are constantly expecting a different kind of experience than they did before. And if a new technology comes out, they're going to expect to see that experience when they're interacting with your organization or another organization. The competitive landscape is constantly changing. So there's a lot of uncertainty in today's world versus, where the world that we used waterfall in heavily. And I think about the iPhone. The iPhone is 13 years old now.
I can't believe that.
Amazon, Uber, Lyft, Tesla. Who doesn't love Tesla? And
I do. It's like being inside your iPhone. It's incredible.
You can.
Right.
So the world we live in is constantly changing. When you think about that and you think about the first thing where we really don't know what we want until we see it, at least most of us, and we really don't know if some of these solutions that we have in mind is going to work the way we want. All of these require the ability to experiment and test ideas much faster.
And I think people are already participating in Agile with all those companies you just mentioned without even realizing that in your personal life you're likely participating in this type of transformation. Like the iPhone I think about, right? How often do you get that request to update the apps on your phone?
Yeah.
That's Agile.
That's frequent incremental delivery of changes. We get new features, we get new fixes. And the companies that have matured and have applied these principles are the ones that are very successful. I think Apple, we talk about Apple, we talk about all these companies. These are perfect examples.
So Sam, what are some of the tangible benefits that you've seen from applying Agile in an organization?
I think you can split up the benefits into short-term benefits, some benefits you see immediately, and then you see some long-term benefits. Companies that have applied the principles and transformed to become lean agile organizations are reporting seeing a reduction in cost 25 to 35%.
Right.
Improvement in quality 25% or more. Faster speed to market. Some companies have reported that they're able to deliver features and solutions 100 times, 200 times faster than they were before.
Wow, which is what people expect with all of these other real life examples that we had.
I think everything is like that now. These changes now are causing the consumers and people like us to expect the same kind of experience and quality of service with other industries and other places that we interact with. But some of the other ones that we see is employee engagement. When the leadership applies the principles and the culture is adopting it, people love working in that kind of environment. They get to see the results of their work, and if it's working, and get feedback on it much faster. This increased collaboration between the people that are producing the work and the solutions and the consumers as well as the business, I think making the work a lot more enjoyable. And it increases alignment between business and technology teams, which is another huge improvement. But some of the immediate benefits that I have at least personally experienced is alignment between business and IT teams. A second thing is transparency and visibility into the work.
When you were talking before, it made me think about organizations that are successful right now, right? So they're in a position of power, let's say.
Yes.
Why would I change anything that I'm so successful right now? Why does anything need to change? Why do I need to transform?
Part of Agile is the idea that we're always improving. There's continuous improvement. We're always looking for better ways to build and deliver solutions and do the work we're doing. So we're always optimizing, and we're always finding ways to optimize how we can deliver value, because we know that the environment that we're in is not always going to stay like this. It's going to change. Take a look at Blockbuster. That's an example. Being too complacent and not having that sense of danger can lead you to fall behind and kind of cause the situations that we saw, with a lot of companies that are not around anymore.
Barnes & Noble. Well, and as you were saying, this change is a journey, so it can take a while. So if you don't start now, you're likely going to be behind. So we've kind of laid the groundwork for what Agile even is, what it looks like in practice. So now when we're thinking about our organizations, where we work, or the people that we work with, how do they go about even transforming into a lean Agile enterprise? And then along with that, what are some of the common challenges, and maybe what comes out of that, then what are those best practices that organizations can implement?
I was looking at some stats. I think in 2019, organizations spent close to a little over $1 trillion with a T on digital transformation.
Wow.
Roughly 3/4 to 75% of those initiatives did not actually realize the benefits and value that they were looking for.
Oh, man.
It is a very large undertaking, and it is a tough and difficult change to make. You have companies, you have teams that love the idea of change. They get excited about it, and they hear all these facts, and then they're motivated. There's no question that they want to do it, and so they jump right in. When it comes down to doing the things that are necessary to make and sustain the change, that's when we start to see some of the challenges. And when you get into it, then you recognize that there's some conflicts. The other scenario is you have leadership teams that do understand what it takes, and they understand that this is going to be a major change to the status quo. And that kind of creates a hesitation for them to want to make that change because they're comfortable and they're happy with the status quo. So you kind of get a little bit of both.
I think for both sides, when you're talking about the teams that are really excited about it and then they get into it and they're like, oh no, now what?
Right.
Or the places where the leadership is ready for it, but they don't realize how big of a change it's going to be.
Yes.
I've heard you say it's like a mindset shift, and that sounds pretty challenging. Can you tell me a little bit more what that looks like?
It requires a complete re-engineering of the way that we think about the work and we do the work. So when we say, we're transitioning to Agile, what we're really saying for individuals and organizations is you need to shift your mindset.
Right.
It's a shift and change in a belief system that you have formed over several years, changing long ingrained habits as well as values that have shaped and influenced how you do the work. And that's a pretty big change. That's not simple.
I love how you said organizations and you said individuals, because one of the fundamental principles of change management is that change happens at an individual level.
Yes.
So think about an organization with 20 people, or an organization with 50 people, or an organization with 50,000 people.
That's a great point, because to make that kind of a change, so how do you go about that change? There's success patterns out there. Every organization is going to have their own unique nuances. There's going to be some specific, cultural things that you have to navigate. But there are some patterns that we see again and again. And it requires a change across all levels of the organization in order for it to be successful. To achieve business agility as an enterprise, the whole organization to be involved and aligned to a common mission to make these changes.
Right.
Or you have a lot of situations and scenarios where leadership, as well as C-level, kind of see Agile as, this is something that really happens at the team level. The teams just need to do it. I just need to approve it and say that I support it. When in reality, it needs to happen throughout the organization, and leadership needs to be actively involved. But they need to actually learn and understand the principles and change in mindset, because it's very different than the mindset and principles that they had been using and that they have learned and applied over the years.
Right.
And by doing that, then they can start to guide the organization down the right path.
The leaders of the organization don't think something is important and aren't exhibiting those behaviors. Why would anyone else in the organization think that it's important?
Yeah, agreed. And they are ultimately responsible for making the transformation successful and for driving the change. The other things we see is situations where there are multiple major initiatives in flight. And we already have a transformation, and Agile transformation just gets thrown on top of that. And we just talked about how significant and what kind of a change this is and what a large endeavor. And you can't be successful when you have all these other major changes going on at the same time. So it's prioritizing that and focusing on the most important one. A couple other common challenges are how we approach planning at the enterprise level. So there's annual planning cycles that happen. That's the traditional way.
Right.
And while that's important, that needs to continue, it needs to also be supplemented and supported with additional planning mechanisms, such as continual planning, because your competition doesn't care about your fixed schedule and the strategy and the plan that you came up with for the year. They're going to disrupt.
Well, something I think about. So I hear the words digital transformation, and I immediately think it's an IT thing. So IT's doing the digital transformation. I'm in HR. Like, how does this affect me?
It is the way that business and IT collaborates is going to change. It's very different. And it's breaking down those silos. So absolutely, that's another common challenge we see.
I think that leads into the best practices, right? So can we talk about that a little bit now?
So how do we go about a transformation? I think number one, first and foremost, you need to have a really compelling reason to get people to start shifting their mindset and start moving towards a different way of working.
Right.
And that requires a very powerful driving force. The why has to be there.
Yeah.
And you have to almost make it sound like your parachutes are gone. We don't have a safety net. There is no backup plan. This is the only way forward. Tactically, what I would say is you start out with just agreeing that there's a problem. You can have meetings with your leadership, executive team, at the team level. You can start listing, hey, what are some of the common challenges that we have today is one. And when you do that and you get agreement that we have a problem, then you can start to formulate that vision and kind of start getting to why we need to change and putting the why into place. The vision is one of the most important parts of it, and that needs to come from leadership.
And what leadership's doing is really clearly articulating the vision, and the more clearly and succinctly you can do that, the easier it's going to get everybody down to the front line bought into why this change is important.
Absolutely. There's different messages too. So the vision and kind of message for executive leadership is it's going to be about what they care about. And one of the things that they care about is on-time delivery. And when they're trying to create a roadmap, a business plan, forecast, they want to know that this plan is going to be reliable. And so the message there is Agile is very regimented, and it improves predictability significantly. And for the teams and management level, it comes down to alignment. It comes down to more the tactical and prescriptive, the methodology of how do we, do the planning, do the work, and how it's going to improve quality, improve alignment. And it helps us to focus on more important tasks as, development managers and leaders, rather than some of the ones that we're having to deal with right now.
Well, and I think maybe an unintended benefit of all of this is that collaboration that you were talking about. And so you've created, now you're on a team that feels more collaborative, where it's okay to admit that you have problems, where it's okay to try something and fail because you get a chance to try it again in a minute. And that, I think that shifts the culture in so many organizations from where you said these kind of outdated management techniques that corporate America grew up on. Those don't work anymore. Those aren't going to work for the future generations.
No. There's another challenge that we see, and some of the things that you need to have in order to be successful is leadership needs to have some tolerance and have some patience, because the change is a journey, and it's kind of a never-ending journey. You're continuously improving, and it's going to take time for you to start realizing some of those tangible benefits. What tends to happen is we have organizations who are operating the way they're operating. They have normal operating procedures, and they start to learn and discover that some of their competitors or some of the other organizations out there have all of a sudden implemented Agile and are seeing significant benefits.
Right.
They know it exists, they know it's there, and they're kind of loosely maybe supporting it. But then, they start to see some of the other organizations get it right, and they start to realize a lot of those benefits. And that's when they're like, oh, okay, well, we got to do this too now. This is something that we got to get on board. We're behind. We have to take some measures. But one of the things that kind of, falls through the cracks is that organization that did it right, they didn't just do this overnight.
Right.
The leadership team, that enterprise has been planning this change for a long time and has gone through some growing pains and trials and errors, and it's taken time for them to get to where they are, and now they're able to reap some of the benefits. So it's recognizing that this is going to be a journey. It's going to take time, and we need to have some tolerance for risks, and it's okay to fail a little bit, and we're going to have to experiment. And
well, any sort of transformation is going to take some time, isn't it? When you think of the word transformation, like I think about, we're still early into the new year. People probably have some weight loss or health goals for the year, right? And so they think it's going to happen overnight. I've been going to the gym for 2 weeks. Why didn't I drop those 10 pounds? And
then we get injuries because we want to move too quickly.
Right. So you think about anything worth it is going to take some time.
Anything, and I think you said it very well. Anything worthwhile is going to take time. Having that strong vision is not enough. I think another challenge and some of the other pitfalls we see is communication of that vision.
Yeah.
And it needs to be communicated, I don't know how many times, but it just communicated over and over so that everyone at every level of the organization knows exactly what the vision is.
Right.
And lets that guide what they need to do in order to make the change successful.
So are there any trends that you're seeing that we haven't touched on yet as part of our conversation?
Trends, I think we're going to continue to see, I see Scaled Agile Framework as, we know it's the leading framework for scaling Agile. I think we're going to continue to see many organizations, especially large organizations, building really large systems and solutions, shifting and trying to adopt and apply a lot of those principles. So I think we're going to see more of that. DevOps is going to continue to be a major piece of this, because DevOps is what's going to enable continuous value delivery and is the infrastructure that you need in place and some of the foundational parts. So I think we're going to see a lot of focus on that. One of the things we're going to probably see is a lot of the solutions out there, some of the low-code development platforms, they're going to probably, and we're seeing some of this already, they're going to start embedding a lot of these principles, DevOps, continuous integration, in their practices and as part of their solution set. Some of the things that design thinking is another practice that we're seeing out there. It's another great tool that you can use to get kind of feedback quickly on your solution ideas and also understand what the true customer needs are. We hear it now, and I don't know if it's a trend. I think we're there. Customer experience, customer centricity, I think is going to be the focus. Everyone focusing on that. What I'd like to see is, I'm curious about is AI, where it's going to lead. Artificial intelligence. I think the more advanced and the more we build on those capabilities, we're also going to need stronger computing power as well. I'm curious to see where that's going to go, and if some of the technologies we have today, is going to be able to support it. So I can kind of foresee we're going to need more powerful systems to do that. Those are some of the ones that I can think of for now. Yeah.
That's great. That's a lot to think about, a lot to plan for.
Yeah, and I think one takeaway I would have for people is, regardless of whatever framework or methodology that's under the umbrella of Agile, and Scrum is a framework for applying the Agile principles. There's extreme programming, there's Kanban, there's many out there. My recommendation is learn the principles.
Yeah.
Learn the Agile principles and start there. That mindset will guide all of your decisions and kind of the actions you need to take.
I think that's a really great first step. It's something easy, actionable, not too scary to get started, but really people need to get started. They haven't already.
Yes.
So start there.
Absolutely.
That's great. Thanks, Sam. It was good talking with
no
you
problem.
today.
Thank you.
All right.
Glad to be here.